Shalom and welcome to Practical Spirituality here in Asia Torah in the Old City of Jerusalem overlooking the Western Wall. Today we're dealing with the question of, the following question is, what do you do if you're clear with the fact that the whole point of this creation is to have a relationship with God, the relationship having also standards like every relationship you've ever had, but you don't feel that you're either ready or up to it or whatever, you're just not able to live up to those standards that the relationship requires. And here's the question part. Oh! And the question he asked was, and I'm not going to repeat those words exactly, but if you died before you got your act together, are you busted? If you died before you got your act together, are you busted? Do you have an amendment to that?
I think his question is more if you're on the way to getting your act together and you die.
I understand. That's what I said.
No
That's what I said.
relationship is at its perfection at the beginning.
I understand.
Your whole life is work.
What if you die before, what's the deal if you die before you're at the point where you're ready to... So, I think it's quite a simple answer, actually. It's not a simple thing to do, but I think it's a simple answer, is that you don't pay for that. You don't pay for that. But that's the simple answer. The difficult answer is, can you be the judge of whether you're ready? So, no, the answer is no, you can't. But could you have a Rebbe who could help you answer that question? So, yeah, for sure. You could have a Rebbe, meaning a mentor, who would have the objectivity to say, you know what? If you kept everything that it required to have this relationship with God, if you kept it all, you would probably freak and drop everything. And so the way you're doing your slow build is appropriate. It's the right speed, and you're choosing the right stuff to take on. So keep up the good work of taking on the right things at the right pace so that you're not going to wind up running for your life and dropping everything and then really being in trouble. So the fact is that you got the course clear, and meaning where you're going with the course, and the fact that you're bumping it up appropriately. Now you may be just being a bum. You got a point when you say the word bum, as a father. Just kidding. Now you may be being a bum, and I can tell you for sure you're being a bum if you don't have a mentor who's guiding your steps. So if you don't have a real mentor in your life guiding your steps towards full observance of the relation, the details of the relationship, because think about it. I mean, I know I've written this a million times, but I'll write it again. There it is. I'm telling you, I'm just waiting to have a dream about this. By the way, I had a crazy dream. I had a crazy dream where I was sitting in a circle of like all the peers that are my peers, and including both in the Jewish world and in the alternative spiritual world. And all my peers are in the room, and I'm just one of the peers in the room, and it's being led by a particular medicine chief from the Amazon, who all of us know, and not all of you, but everyone in the room knew. And he's leading it, and he just suddenly like singles me out and mentions me and my concern over finances. and how I go about my life and how I make a living. And that it was almost like I'll be reviewing his relationship to money. But what he was really saying was, he's not really going to review my relationship to money. What he was really saying is Yom Tov, you're not supposed to be paying attention to money. Meaning most people are, you're not. And your job is just to do what you do. And then I woke up and was so relieved. So relieved. Because you can't help but let the money thing creep in. You know what I'm talking about? Like, you're single or married? Single. And you know you'd like to be taken care of, right? But doesn't money creep in? You know, even though your long-term plan is, that's not going to be your part, you know? So for me, even though I'm a man, it's not my part. It's just not my part. And I was over worrying about it for a while, which is how I got this, you know, last week I was out 2 days because I got this thing. But I know I got that thing over that because I was thinking in terms that I'm not supposed to be thinking in, and it was causing me stress that was inappropriate, you know. I mean, think about it. If you guys found out that I was worrying about money, you'd probably pool all your money together to make sure I never worried about money again, because it would be such a waste of a resource. I tell people all the time, if you've got something to say, don't you dare have a job. If you got something to say, meaning what I mean is, if you got a difference to make that's big enough and you're willing to make it, so then you're not allowed a job. Not allowed a job. Let the world pay for you. Create a 501c3 if you want, and put it all around what you're trying to say to the world, and grab a staff of people who are willing to, who feel the same way about that. But don't you dare have a job if you could possibly make a difference on this planet before it just falls right through space with the weight of its problems. If you have something you can do about this planet, don't you dare sit in front of a computer, you know, at someone else's company several hours a day. You know, that's just inappropriate. And I broke my own rule. And I woke up with a virus. You know, it's already 8 days later. I got that message right away. But then later in the week got the dream. And then woke up relieved. Yeah. So anyway, that was just a lesson within a lesson right there. When you have a relationship, you have two things going on at all times. One is the connection, which you separated too much here. One is the connection, the other one is the is the do's and don'ts. What would you call the do's and don'ts? With anything. I mean, you work for a company. There's like compliance rules. You know, you sign the contract that I'll be this amount of time. I won't be on my cell phone. I'm not going to be surfing the web. And, you know, there's compliance. There's do's and don'ts. You know, be there at these times. Don't be on the web. You know, like, et cetera, et cetera. But ultimately, you're in a relationship with the company. And so if you're married, you know, you got the connection to your spouse. And then you got like colors you should never wear. And you also have things you should never bring up. You know, those are don'ts. And food you should never make, at least when he's in town or she's in town if you're the chef. But you also have all the do's. You know, there's certain do's that are very specific to that person you're married to, that are like, you can't miss those. But you realize you could also just do the do's and don't do the don'ts without actually connecting. I know people like that. I know people have technical marriages. It's pretty sad. You know, they have technical marriages. I would barely call them married. They're married legally. You know, they would have to do something. If they wanted to separate, they would have to give a get. They'd have to like get divorced. But they're not really married. And I know people also who are, you know, married, but their connections, like they're working on connection, but they're not so interested in the do's and don'ts factors of the relationship. And so they keep getting hurt. Meaning they have the love. They have the real, this is connection, is the love. I just put connection because sometimes it's a company. You don't have to love the company you work for, but they have the connection, but but they just keep getting hurt because if you loved me, you would not do that, or if you loved me, you would do that, and so. Anyway, but these are both very important. In Judaism, with God, this is called the same connection, love, and the do's and the don'ts is the Torah, and it tells you what to do and what not to do. It also tells you a bit about love because it's clearly God's been like, he went way out of his way for the Jewish people. And at least the first part of history, that's kind of our history, is God going out of his way for us. And the second part of history is us paying for the fact that we don't care about the do's and the don'ts. So he still loves us. He never stops loving us. He'll even go, it says that God's presence, when the temple was destroyed, he went to exile with us. He went to exile with us. We didn't go alone to exile. God came with us into exile. It's a serious love relationship, but it's paying for our incalcitrance, our refusal to live with the do's and don'ts. So we have to be really honest with ourselves about our growth with the do's and the don'ts. And the love. But here's a couple things. One thing is, you have to know yourself in relationships. People who are more structure oriented will tend towards the do's and the don'ts, and let the connection go a little bit. Yeah, and people are more. There's a table for two right there. Welcome. So, right now we're talking about Limudei Hashem and Limudei Ratzon Hashem. By the way, this Jewish studies. I just totally changed the topic a bit, but. Jewish studies breaks down to this one and this one. This is called Limudei Hashem, learning about Hashem. To get, if you got to know him is to love him. You got to get in there. Not that you could ever know God, but you got to get into the Kabbalistic stuff about God and his relationship to the physical world. And that's all Kabbalah. And then this is all Talmudic law, Shulchan Aruch, studying the Talmud and stuff. Now, what do you think the vast majority of studies that yeshivas do? The do's and the don'ts, or the study of God himself? Which one? Yeah? Number two? Yeah. Number two. Uh-huh. Yeah. And what's funny is Hasidim, which are a branch of Ashkenazim, and there's plenty of Sephardic Chabadniks and Breslovers, by the way, but these Hasidim, you would think, because the whole idea was, let's get focused on one here. Because there was a false messiah named Shabtai Tzvi who messed the Jewish people up big time by this whole messianic thing that almost happened in the 1600s. And then what happened was, it made a big backlash against number one. And Judaism should just be technical. It should be a technical relationship. And they called it, that movement was called Rationalist Judaism. Rationalist Judaism, which was not too shabby. I mean, it was intense stuff. You want to have your mind blown. Probably the greatest of all the rationalist writings was by a rabbi in Germany named Rav Shimshon Raphael Hirsch. And if you ever get a chance to learn the Torah based on his explanations, I mean, you'll just have your mind opened way beyond most things you could ever read during the rationalist period. So it ain't bad. But the Hasidim came to fix this and trickle in all the secret Kabbalistic wetness of Judaism, the relationship, the connection. But today, none of that is going on because, you could ask this Hasidic young man, don't worry, you're not on film here, these two Hasidic young men. So you guys learned in yeshivas, right? So let's say in high school, sheer base in Yeshiva Gedolah, Yeah? How many hours of your day were spent on Limudei Hashem, meaning where that was part of the program to learn about connection? How many hours of your day?
Not much.
Was there an hour where the whole yeshiva opens up a sefer? No hour. How about yours? Any hour of that? How about Yeshiva Ketana? Was there an hour of Limudei Hashem?
Maybe 15 minutes.
15? Not bad. Yeah, so let me explain what's going on here. How could it be that there's a Hasidic yeshiva that has dropped from their curriculum? Totally dropped from their curriculum. The whole point that Hasidus came up, maybe I'll move this over a little. The purpose of why Hasidic life came into the world, how could they drop that from the curriculum? Good question. So it's a very simple answer, and it's an amazing answer. And a lot of people maybe never thought about this before, but which one's the intimate one, number 1 or 2? 1. Is it very intimate when you're told that it's time to open up your book on intimacy and start learning about it? No, you understand that to put it into an educational system is taking the technical side of Judaism and applying technical life to number 1. And then what happens is now you're in a class, in a system, with a teacher who's going to tell you about your relationship with God. I mean, could I ever tell you about your relationship with God? It's no, I'm not even sure about my own relationship with God. I mean, as far as I can tell, we're lovers. But what do I know? I have no idea. I think we're crazy about each other, but I think there's a seat right there for you. You can just come around. I think we're all good, but I have no idea. But it's the beauty of what I'm saying is it always stays private. It always stays intimate. And the way it stays intimate is because you can't institutionalize it. It always stays intimate. In Hamevin Yovin, there is only one organization that ever instituted Hasidus during their actual study hours, and that's Chabad. Chabad actually did institutionalize the study of Hasidus. And I can say that I'm very jealous that I didn't get to have that. If there was anything that would have drawn me to Chabad, would have been to have 3 hours a day of Hasidus in the day. But on the other hand, maybe it would lose something in having become part of that. You understand? Because it always stays. What are we talking about? We're talking about intimacy. Well, intimacy is got to be intimate. It's got to be something you elect for. So I'll just give a word to these 2 Hasidic young men is even though they didn't put it in your schedule, you put it in your schedule. Right? You have it in your schedule? You have it? Not so much. Put it in your schedule. Make sure it's in your schedule.
Isn't 2-1 by Shabbat?
What's that?
Isn't
2-1?
1 becomes 2. If you learn 3 hours a day, 1 becomes 2. So learning 3 hours Chassidus becomes very much not so much doing now, but it doesn't become anymore number 1.
It might be. I don't know. I wasn't going to flesh that out. You fleshed it out. That's why I said Amay V'Yovin. Now, where are we holding? So what if you die when you're not there yet? Tell me, has anyone died when they were there yet? Moses, maybe? You get that? So are any of us ever going to be there? We're never going to be there. But, this is a lesson I wanted to teach you earlier this week that I was about to say, but then it would have been way too off topic, but I think now it's pretty on topic, is that a lot of people make the mistake, and listen carefully to this one. A lot of people make the mistake. And you know what? Can I get everyone, I'm going to teach you something so important. Can I get everyone to raise their hand that they would share this with one person by tomorrow? It's really short and easy to share. Only if you agree with it. If you don't agree with it, you can throw it in the wastebasket. But if you agree with what I'm about to say, would you share it with one person, please? Okay? And you're reminding me, you won't do it? You won't share it with one person? Oh, you will? Okay. Whoa, is it unanimous? Everyone, you'll share this with one person?
Not sure what.
Whatever it is. I'm about to say whatever I say. You'll share it with one person. But someone reminded me that I've got to say this more often. I should say it after every class. Remind me to say this after every class. The heads of Torah Anytime said to me, they're like, dummy. They're at my Shabbos table calling me a dummy. But they said, dummy, when you finish a class, tell the people to write. You know someone who needs to hear what I just said. You all know someone who, at least one person who needs to hear what I just said. Hit the share button, put in his email, or her email, and send it. And let them hear it. Because if you don't do that right now, you probably won't. And so get it done. You get that? So I should say that at the end of classes. Can't tell you what a pleasure it is to have you back. You have no idea what I went through. Are you here for a while?
Yeah.
Just tell me you're here for a while. Every day I had another substitute video camera guy, like holding equipment like upside down. It was really bad. So here's the thing. This is what you're going to share. So you'll notice, by the way, listen how much better you listen, knowing you got to share it. That's your first lesson. That's not the one you're going to share. But listen how much more you listen, knowing you're going to share it, which means that in your future, if you're going to learn something that's of value, have in mind that you're going to share it. You know, you're going to share it out there. It's like my children when they start a school, meaning start the year with a new teacher. So I go up to the teacher and I say, I know you got a lot of kids in your class. And then I point to my kid and I say, you see that one over there? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, that's Glazer. That's my kid. Yeah. And they're like, yeah. And I said, when my wife and I had children, it was not for us. We are giving birth to solutions to the world's problems. And we train them from day one. Literally from day one, they are being trained to be solutions to this planet's problems. And so I know you're going to give to all the kids equally, but just have in the back of your mind that whatever you say in this room, and especially any extra attention you give to the Glazer kid, is going to be broadcast into the planet big time. So just have that in mind. And they're like, okay, whatever. And then I hand them 200 shekels or something, because that's just part of saying hi to your kid's teacher. And it doesn't have to be 200 shekels, but certainly the first one should be. Yeah, you don't want to go less than 200 on the first meeting, you know. And but you know, they got 30 kids in that class. You know, there definitely is a good idea that he was able to buy fish that week for his Shabbos table because he's got your kid in his class. So anyway, but they all say to me at the end of the year, they say to me like, wow, you're right. That kid's here to make a difference. You know, and so we're not living in simple times. So. And by the way, you want to keep your kids safe? I'll give you 2 hints in keeping your kids safe when you raise your kids. Number 1, raise them to be the solutions to this earth's problems. So that way they'll be, you know, very alert when they're in class to hear from, what do I need, who do I need to be, and what do I need to know to like make the difference for this place. So they're going to be much more attentive as students. And the other thing is, your home has to be the most spiritual place they've ever been, the most fun and the most accepting. Okay, most spiritual place, the most fun and most accepting. We just did an all-night meditation, 13 hours of meditation. And on my right was my 9-year-old little Hasidic boy. You know, my daughters were there. Anyone in town was there. You know, even my 23-year-old son popped in on his way back from Kivreit Sadiq. 22-year-old son popped back from Kivreit Sadiqim in Europe. He even got there at 5 in the morning. I thought he was just going to go and go to sleep. No, he sat down. He's like, got himself on top of the drum, and we did another hour's jam with him on there. And Anyway, you make your house the most spiritual house ever. Judaism's not intellectual in your home. Okay? Stay away from intellectual Judaism in the home. And that's one thing that's two things I told you, but the other thing is it's the most fun home. Your home should be so fun that when your 16-year-old daughter goes out for a trip with her, or 5 hours with their friends, she's back in 2. And when she walks in the door, you're like, what are you doing back here? And she's like, I thought I'd miss something. So your teenage daughter should be coming home early from events because she was afraid something might be going on in the house that she would have missed. You be the home that all your kids' friends want to be at. Make sure you're the home where all the kids' friends want to be, as opposed to you wondering what in the world's going on with your kids in someone else's home. Now, here's what I wanted to share with you, is that a lot of people make the error of thinking that, we all need to, let's start again. Here's what you're going to share with someone, that we all need to get somewhere we're not yet. Clear? Everyone agrees with that? We all need to get somewhere we are not at this point there. And the mistake you could make is not being here where you're at. Because this is where your relationship with God is. The USB cable interface between God and creation is where you're at now. Yeah, you're still selfish. Yeah, you're still lazy. Yeah, you're still like a little, lacking accuracy maybe in some particular mitzvahs or halachas and stuff. I don't know what you're up to. Yeah, you haven't learned Torah in a serious way in a while. Wherever you're at, you are here, and here is where God and you are in a relationship. And so, yes, you need to grow to some other place. But you better be here, too. I know people who aren't here. They're always postponing life to some place they're trying to get to. And I admire their growth. I mean, these are people who are serious people, heavy-duty growers. But they forget about the important lesson to be where you're at as well. You got to be where you're at as well. And I'll share that also with a story. It'll help you remember what you're going to share with them. Is we were 9 men who were about to pray. A group of rabbis. We got together to do some studies, and 9 of us were about to pray. We needed a 10th man, and we just couldn't find anyone because we had met in an area where there weren't a lot of observant men, and there wasn't even a lot of people at all. So the only person we found was like this long-haired, tripped-out, secular Israeli guy. Yeah, I'm on my last 30 seconds. This tripped out secular Israeli guy was just a long-haired, tripped out guy. He had earrings and all kinds of funky things going on with him. And anyway, we pulled him in, we put a kippah on his head and gave him a siddur. Thankfully, he's Israeli, he can read the Hebrew. And this guy was just there, so he just went for it. And he was doing us a favor, but if I'm already here doing it, so I'll do it. And he opens his prayer book and he's in. But we were in too, so we weren't paying that much attention to him. But the long story short is that when we had finished praying, and meaning really finished, like the last Kaddish was said, he was still on the 3rd or 4th paragraph. He had the siddur like this, his other hand like this, and he was just like this, And none of us touched his prayers because we're all so into growth that we missed the connection part. Because you can't connect anywhere if you're not where you're at now. You got to be where you're at to have a relationship. And yes, you got to grow. And you should be doing everything you can to grow. But be where you're at. So this guy kind of mopped the floor with all of us rabbis in connection because he doesn't have a thought like he's got to be somewhere else. He's always just he's always kind of soaking in his own juices all the time, this guy. He's not in that he's not like us in this crazy growth thing we're up to. But don't miss your own growth. Don't miss the connection while growing. Shalom, everybody. Shalom. If you enjoyed watching this, well, watch some more, send it, click it, forward it, join it, subscribe to it. You know, keep coming on and joining me in this amazing movement to make a big difference in the world. And the biggest thing you can do of all is to join the YomTovMediaClub.com. Please go online, YomTovMediaClub.com.